Organized by Franchise India, the World Franchise Congress was held recently in New Delhi. After successfully conducting more than 600 franchise shows, this World Congress is Franchise India's first attempt to offer a common platform for franchises across India and the world to exchange ideas and initiate dialogue on franchising opportunities. The day-long event was flagged off with a welcome address by the Editor-in-Chief of Franchise India, Ritu Maurya.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This initiative is really all about bringing the franchise industry together and seeing big growth happen amongst all of us, through all of us. As an editor, I have written about franchising. I have closely observed franchising. I've felt it because I've met with people, I've met with franchisors, met with franchisees. And I can tell you one thing, that there have been lots of changes that have happened in franchising. Industries have changed. Some industries were very special at some point of time. Some other industries became special at other points of time. But one thing I found continued to remain the same irrespective. And that was largely that it was the hunger of people to look for an opportunity. It was the hunger of people to start a business, be their own boss, which continues to remain same regardless of how franchising has grown or come to grow in this country. So which I think is the standing point and the starting point of franchising. I think there is no contention today that franchising as a business model is nascent in India. It's certainly growing and becoming very, very large. What we need to correct is how we're going to make it bigger than it ever was. So I welcome you for a great day of learning and networking from the leaders with each other and making big franchising happen. Welcome once again.
The World Franchise Congress was conceived in collaboration with PepsiCo India and Franchise India. The day proceeded with the first session that talked about the current state and strategic future of Franchising Vision 2020. PepsiCo's Vice President and GM of India Franchise Commercial Unit, Samudra Bhattacharya, spoke about the franchising opportunities that could shape India's economy.
We believe that franchising will go on to become about 4 to 5% of the India GDP by 2017, and that's not very far away. It's expected to grow at an annual rate of 30% and beyond if we can all work together and make that happen. $50 billion is the projected size of this industry in India by 2017. And very importantly, as this model evolves, as this model expands, we expect it to generate a lot of employment for Indians from all parts of the country. An additional 11 million jobs hopefully would be created as this industry goes on to become much larger in India.
PepsiCo India's chairman and CEO D. Shivakumar shed light on macroeconomic growth enablers that will go a long way in creating a robust franchise ecosystem in India.
What are the enablers? The enablers clearly are what the government is doing. FDI and multi-brand is a great enabler, especially for luxury brands, especially for technology brands, especially for consumer durable brands, especially for apparel brands, especially for shoes. Okay, it's a huge enabler, FDI and multi-brand. The second enabler, I believe, is infrastructure. That's very, very important. The more infrastructure develops, I believe it will have a direct role to play in the franchise business model. And the third, I would say, is technology. Today, a franchisee can have all the access to cloud computing and the mobile workforce, as a result of which he can be far more nimbler than anybody else. So all three are big enablers, and all three will play into the hands of the franchisee and the franchise ecosystem.
He also shared his view on how entrepreneurship and employment will get a boost if forward-looking franchise models are put in place.
Franchise is a huge opportunity. It's $50 billion in India today. It can be much bigger as more and more services get franchised out. It is going to happen. It's going to happen this decade. It's going to happen in front of our eyes. You will participate in it. You will benefit from it. Okay, that's the first thing I want to say. It has the opportunity to create 47,000 new companies and to feed 11 million jobs. India needs 1 million jobs every month for the next 10 years. We have 200 odd million people who need to come into the job market. We need to create 12 million jobs, 12 to 15 million jobs every year. This business model is ripe for that creation. And you are ripe for that creation because you are the entrepreneurs who will lead the journey of creating businesses, creating opportunities for young people to get into the mainstream economy.
Andy Williams, President Franchise PepsiCo UK, gave the audience a sneak peek into global franchise models and some key principles that would help franchisors and franchisees succeed.
What I tend to do is, as I travel the globe looking at different markets, not only for us, but I also try and understand how different businesses are also franchising. And I think what you notice is there are sort of 4 or 5 very clear principles that play out across most franchise businesses. Firstly, and I guess this could be one way of defining success, make sure there's a really clear proposition and a very strong brand that can be lifted to other markets. And I think, a mistake that people can make is trying to move too quickly before that is actually in place. The second piece is being really clear on what is the operating model and what are the core processes that support that model. I think for the brand owner going into new markets, it's critical that the right development teams are put in place and they match the capabilities of the franchisee. Really important that we leverage each other's capabilities and we don't try and do each other's jobs. And then the final piece is, as we expand, make sure there's a global network. Now, we have a global network across 122 countries, but we don't have a global network as we try and build innovation and we try and go into new consumer spaces. But we try and build that very quickly. And I think the more you can do that, whether it be across India or with other markets, it becomes critical to the overall model. I think there are some questions that, as you think about going into franchise and building that model, that we should be conscious of. Is there a consistent and transparent governance environment, not only with our own business, but with local regulators, with local laws and so on? I think the other point is there truly a well-established business model in the home market that can be lifted and shifted? Making sure that whatever we have in terms of processes and the model, it is ready for export. We have to be able to lift and shift as we go forward. Fourth one, there have to be sustainable returns for everybody. If the returns work for one party and not the other, the model doesn't work. So really making sure before we jump into this that they are there, and making sure that whatever we're jumping into, obviously, there is demand for it in the home market. Thank you.
Franchise India's chairman Gaurav Maurya took center stage to highlight reasons for the franchise industry not having attained its rightful spot in the economy and also suggested what approach businesses should take to succeed.
What are the issues which we have in industry? Why we are not able to create a significant performance? I have listed down few. One is we don't set a bigger vision. We are very regional. We are trying to do the fulfillment of whatever product we have. We don't think that we are a serious franchise company. Second is financial performance. Undercapitalization of both the franchise companies and franchises, I see a big worry. Commitment to relationships, while we are very committed by relationships, but we don't have systems to protect that relationships. We produce technology, but we don't use technology. That's a problem. We don't have original concepts. That's another worry I have, is that we need to bring in some very interesting original concepts. We obviously lack government, banking and finance support. We need that. And our real estate costs are very high. Another area which I feel, which is very, very important for everybody to understand, historically, we all come from distribution background. So we've used franchising as a way of selling our product or service. So what we do is we push the product and focus only on the product side, create innovation on the product. But we forget the difference between a distribution franchise model and a business format franchising is, in this case, you don't only give your product, but you give him know-how to conduct a business. That's something which needs investment on. Even the largest companies need to see how do you deliver to the last mile and how do you enable that person who's going to deliver to your customer is more important. Finally, my advice is that if you're getting into franchise, think long term. Don't just get into the business because you don't have enough cash. I feel that franchising is done best for reasons of bringing the last mile entrepreneur value. Somebody who would be much more responsible for your brand and custodian of your brand at the last mile to serve your customer. So my wishes, best wishes for each one of you to have a great day ahead. Thank you very much. Thanks, Pepsi, for giving us this great opportunity to bring this show together. Thanks.
The event witnessed the launch of Francast, a report on the franchise forecast for 2016. As the day progressed, the event saw power-packed panel discussions, the first of which was on building a great franchise performance company. Vijay Thadani, Chairman and MD of NIIT, kicked off the session educating the audience on the life cycle of successful franchising.
I would very briefly touch on 7 stages of what I call building a franchise relationship. The very first stage is what I call inspiration. The inspiration to create the franchise has to come out of the inspiration which helped you create the business. The inspiration which helped us create the business was, we one day decided that we would like every human being on Mother Earth to be IT literate. That's about 7-odd billion people. In 35 years, we have done only 35 million. Long way to go. But we wouldn't have reached 35 million if we had not built that stronger inspiration of 7 billion people. The second stage is what I call aspiration. Aspiration is, within the larger inspiration, the future that the individual entrepreneur creates for himself or herself. The third is, I call respiration. Respiration is the responsibility of the franchisor to set up processes and standards. And one of the rules that we created for ourselves was that when you walk into a center, you shouldn't be able to make out that it's a franchisee center or a company-owned center. The next stage, fourth stage, is perspiration. Perspiration is about meeting results, meeting goals. So in many ways, they are co-founders, but in many ways, they are like any other NIITian. They have goals, they have targets. That goal and target or not meeting that goal or target may meet their need, but it will not meet the family's needs. And if it does not meet the family's needs, then we have a discordant note. The next stage is acceleration. We need to keep a common motivating thread, and that common motivating thread is continuous acceleration. The sixth stage is appreciation. Even though the person is a co-founder, even though the person is as aligned with you as anybody else, constant appreciation is a very, very important part we learned of driving franchisees. And the last stage is rejuvenation. Rejuvenation is an extremely important part because in the first 20 years, frankly, we did not encounter adversity at all. It is when the first adversity struck us, that's the first test of the relationship was, because then there was tension. The second important part of rejuvenation is succession. So we worked with them to come out with a succession plan and came out with 2 or 3 models, and we helped them in locating the succession plan. And the last, which we normally don't talk about, is the process of termination. It is possible even though we decided that we will remain married for life, it is possible that there is a divorce. In which case, how do we make sure that the divorce is such that both sides go home thinking, fine, it didn't work, but I still respect this person and I still trust this person. So with that, I will leave you to a fruitful discussion.
At the session, eminent personalities from various industries shared anecdotes of challenges, successes, failures, and learnings from their experiences in franchising. What struck a common chord among them was that of trust between the franchisor and the franchisee.
We became a franchisee organization in 2004 when there was not much work being done on the franchisee side. And we came in with fanfare. We made our partners to invest. Unfortunately, as the changes keep happening, there was no deregulation at that point of time. And what it meant was you were buying crude at a higher price and selling product at a lower price, thereby making huge losses. So our partners were making huge losses. We had 1,500 partners in fold, and everyone was losing money hand over fist. And coming to, again, Mr. Tharani, your point, how do you ensure that your small partners are alive? SR decided to compensate the partners from there on. And what SR did was, they said, partners, you have lost money, we understand. For the last few years, you have not made money. We will try to compensate for time gone by and the time which is going to come. We don't know when deregulation will come, but we are confident deregulation will come. To show our commitment to the franchise partners, and 1,400 of them, SR decided that they'll be giving 18% fixed rate of return on their investment till the decontrol happens. And this is 2010 middle. No one knew what's going to happen. We thought at that point of time that it's going to take possibly 18 to 24 months. And the decision was taken on that basis. And finally, just for all of us to know, we started doing that 18% rate of return on the investment. Deregulation finally happened only in end 2014, as all of us know. Possibly, SR spent 2x the money in keeping the dealer network stay afloat for this period.
One of the reasons that VLCC has been successful over a long period of time, incidentally, we're in business now for 26 years. We don't differentiate between a company-owned outlet or a franchisee outlet. And as Mr. Tharani had alluded, recognition is a great motivator in itself. I must confess, we got into that discovery later because for the longest time we were only company-owned outlets. But it's in the end worked out well for us to the extent that now for the last 2 years we have grown more franchisee outlets than company-owned outlets. And going forward, we see franchising as one of our key growth drivers.
The network is so entrenched that counterfeits beware, These guys are so entrenched in the network, they're so well spread out, and they're so close to the market. All we need to do is just listen to them. They pick it up, and then more often than not, they have means and they have the commitment to be able to stamp it out also. So it's not that big a problem.
DC Strategy is a franchise developer. We develop networks and brands, and we expand them around the world. We work with existing brands as large as McDonald's and Starbucks, and emerging brands that grow within their countries and are expanded internationally. In India, every year I come here, I can see the enormous opportunity and the massive growth of opportunity. And I see that India is on the cusp of very, very significant growth in franchising, because I see that your emerging middle class is becoming more interested in doing business with organised retail and organised businesses than it is with doing business with disorganised retail and businesses as their parents did. And we see this is the start of the emergence of real opportunity here in India.
What I think can be one takeaway, that there is no rule book. There is absolutely no rule book. It has to be a completely dynamic, evolving structure where we and our franchisee go hand in hand together and move towards a common goal, which is already set up by the company, which is success following the success. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hearing all of us so patiently. Thank you, our wonderful, wonderful panelists, for being here.
Minister of State for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Rajiv Pratap Rudy, shared the government's policy on skill development and the National Skills Qualification Framework. He also addressed the issue of skilled labour shortage in India with statistics of formal skilling in other parts of the world.
If you look at United States of America, I believe that it's about 46% of the workforce is skilled. If you look at United Kingdom, it's about 68% of the workforce which is skilled. If you look at Germany, it's about 74% of the workforce which is skilled. If you look at Japan, it is about 80% of the workforce which is skilled. If you look at Korea, 96% of the workforce is skilled. And that means out of every 100 people, may not be very educated, but 96 people are such people who have the skills to get employed. Well, I'm sure I've been talking about it so often now that everyone in India knows and what is the skill percentage in India. It's just meager about 3.5%. Industry has been always harping that we do not have skilled manpower. But when you come to the industry for a trained manpower, and if you ask them what kind of a trained manpower which you require, the actual formation of a skilled manpower is not understood by each, and everyone has his own assessment. So the biggest challenge for us in the government of India is to put skills in a structured format. And that is why for the first time in this country, and we have identified 6,500 national occupation standards. Now, when I say national occupation standards, I've been asking the industry, do we understand all this language? All this language has been familiar across the world, in Europe, in Australia, in America for last 50, 60, 100 years. But we in India have missed, and over the years, we know a carpenter or a plumber and simple, and that's all what we know. A binder and things like that, we do not know. And something called, for the first time in Government of India, we have got that every skilling which has to take place for any enterprise, whether it's manufacturing, whether it is services, whether it's a franchisee, it has to be under a particular framework. And this framework is called the National Skills Qualification Framework. Now, this word must be sounding Greek to all of you. What is this National Skills Qualification Framework? But I can tell you, in 3 years from now, as a part of the cabinet decision, no enterprise whatsoever will have a legitimacy of business unless until the organization under skills for any enterprise is aligned to the National Skills Qualification Framework, which means that you have to have a framework which has been drawn from the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor, and a unified structure has been created under which we have the qualification pack. And when we say a qualification pack, would be the qualification pack which is outcome oriented. And I'm doing all this because all as a part of the industry should know that there is a structure in place today through the sector skill councils, which are industry driven bodies, to get those manpower required by the industry.
The World Franchisee Congress was concluded with an award ceremony where industry leaders were felicitated for excellence in the world of franchising. The award for excellence in human resource practices was claimed by Carlson Residor Hotel Group. The winner for Entrepreneur of the Year in franchise business was backed by C.K. Kumaravel, CEO and co-founder, Groom India Salon and Spa. The final category of the award ceremony was Franchise Leader of the Year, and the winner of this award was KB Kachru, Chairman South Asia, Carlson Residor Group.
If you look at franchising, right now it's accelerating because you have a new breed of entrepreneurs who are willing to take more risks. And more important, you see whole ecosystems being built around the franchise model. Take IPL as a great example. Take ISL as a great example. Take the Champions Tennis League which Vijay Amritraj runs. So more and more people are seeing that a franchise model is a profitable, effective model to get into business.